All right, so some of you guys might recognize this gentleman joining me today. This is Bjørnar Kibsgaard, and Bjørnar has a great YouTube channel, and he talks about stock music licensing, sync licensing, production music, computers as well. Whether to upgrade your Mac, and he has some great reviews on new tech and new hardware that you guys should check out. But I'm bringing Bjørnar on because he released a video last week called "Untalented Button Pusher." And it was a great, and if you don't know what that means, go watch the video. I'll actually link it below. You guys should go check it out. What I really loved about it is that he was just being very honest and transparent about, the struggles he's facing and what he's feeling right now in the face of generative AI technology coming into the world and cranking out licensable, high quality pieces of production music and artist music, really. And so what I loved about his video is he was just kind of being honest and upfront about the feelings of like, should I keep doing this and why should I keep doing this? What's my future going to look like in a world where I have to compete with an algorithm that can obviously outpace me, in speed and efficiency and in cost and all that kind of stuff. And, what I want to start off our conversation with is to kind of really get into the bigger elephant in the room is not whether or not sync licensing or stock licensing will survive this revolution. That obviously remains to be seen. We all have our concerns about that, which we can talk about. But really the bigger topic, I think, is really more of an identity crisis we're going to be going through, and we probably already been going through. Some of us have been feeling it more than others. I certainly have in various times in the last year. And the identity crisis is, of course, well, up until now, I've built my identity on I'm a musician, I'm a producer. I've got some natural talent, but I've really worked at it and I've really honed it. And I have this skill set now where I can create, high quality music that I love. And all of a sudden, these computer companies are coming in here and they're sucking up the talent that we've really, poured our heart, sweat, and tears into. And they're now able to just generate music by a couple of clicks of buttons. And, as long as you know basic language and you can type a sentence in, you can also do pretty much exactly what Bjorn and I have spent decades perfecting. And so that's it's a tougher, pill to swallow in terms of, okay, who are we then? And what should we keep making music? And this feeling of futility keeps creeping into our world, certainly for myself. And I think Bjørnar, you felt it as well. So I really want to dive into that first. So Bjørnar, first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Maybe just give me a little background walkthrough of what prompted you to make that video last week. And why was that something you felt like you needed to spend the time doing?
Yeah, so first of all, Jesse, thank you for having me on your channel. I really appreciate the content you make and the videos. So talking about sync and talking about now recently AI. I made that video because I am at kind of a crossroads I want to decide what I should focus on moving forward because in AI, I think we are in a place where we are kind of in a wait and see situation, see what is going to happen. And we don't really know what is going to happen. We see what's happening with these tools. They are getting better and better. 3 years ago, we saw that it just sounded like some kind of general MIDI kind of thing. And a year after that, it was, well, yeah, pretty good. And now you have vocals, you have everything. It just sounds maybe a little grainy, not maybe that perfect. You have maybe a lower stereo field, but a few years later, it's going to be perfect. So to find your place in the AI music production world, that's the question, right? I think it depends really on what your goals are. And for me, branding, I think it's important to have a brand that is you being visible as a person and trying to focus to getting to people to hopefully like the entire package around you as an artist, a YouTuber, or whatever you do online or as an artist. And when it comes to music production, for me, it's you need to have fun when you're in the studio and when you're producing music. If you're not having fun producing music, I at least need to stop doing it and do something else. And if you feel like it's getting ashore or you get demotivated, I think it's wise to just take a pause and just think a little bit. Don't do much, just think a little bit. So I think you need to be really dialed in and know what you're after in this AI music production world. And it's, for me, it's the creative process of, creating the tracks. That's where I find enjoyment in music production, and hopefully people won't find that much enjoyment in just typing some text. What do you
Right.
think?
Yeah, and that's a great point, and I think that's kind of obviously the the title of your video, "Untalented Button Pusher," is it kind of gets right into the core of this identity thing of like, if they're untalented button pressers and they can do what we do, where does that leave us, right? Are we just talented button pushers at this point, right? That we're just sort of doing exactly what they're doing. We've got the knowledge that this is good or not good music, but we're pretty much now all on an even playing field. So it feels like it's wiping away the identities that we've kind of created for ourselves. So what I've noticed in my experience is that if I'm feeling on fire for songwriting, as I have been lately, and I'm loving the creative process, the fears of AI coming in and threatening that from taking that from me, or threatening my identity, aren't as a big of a deal because I'm just lost in the creative process. So that's kind of just noise over there, and I'm not even worried about it. But at the moments when I'm just struggling and I haven't written music in a long time, or I'm just really hating what I'm working on, if I hear some big news coincidentally about AI getting better at that particular moment in my career, that's when the feeling of futility really creeps in. And I just think, well, okay, what's the point? I'm already struggling. This is just basically adding fuel to the fire. I should just give up. So has that tracked at all with your experience in the last year as you've learned about AI?
Yeah, sometimes I do think about that, but that's related to the kind of daily mood. If I'm in a good mood today, it doesn't matter that much. But yeah, it depends from day to day. And I was thinking about this because when you produce music, the AI needs some new content to come up with new ideas. And when we are creating music, we are creative, and I think that for me, when I am producing music, it's always about trying to find this happy accident place. That's the thing for me, and that's what makes it fun. And that's also how I'm thinking about trying to be original in the space, and trying to kind of out work the AI, because if you don't feed the AI with new content, isn't it just only going to just rehash the same kind of algorithms and just make kind of the same tracks, but maybe in a different way? And if you don't add more to this AI model, it won't get better. Or can the AI model be creative? Can the AI model create something new? Like when you are on a synthesizer, analog synthesizer or something like that, I do that. You can kind of get into this strange place, or you can get into these as I said, happy accidents. I don't know if that's going to be I don't know if that's something AI is going to be able to do. It's probably going to be able to mimic it at some point. But yeah, that's my thoughts about that.
Yeah,
I
and it
think
remains to be
that
seen because, I've heard those concerns as well, that if AI only is fed off of its own output, it could essentially homogenize everything and everything starts to sound the same and boring and not interesting. Then the big question is like, well, could they just insert a new algorithm that, basically inserts some diversity and some variety into its output through itself and not require human beings? We have no idea. I think it's way too soon to even know what that's going to be in the future. But I do, like, in my mind, I like to take things to the limit, and I want to think, all right, let's imagine, just for say, there is an AI model in the future that can basically be trained on one song and it can create any other piece of music it needs to, and that's it for the rest of eternity. Where does that leave me? How am I going to operate in a world like that, right? Do I stop making music because it will just be infinitely better and infinitely more creative than I ever can be? I have my approach to that on, what I've been thinking about lately in terms of like taking it to the limit, in terms of that could be the extreme future that we face. I still have something that I want to say in my music, right? It's, even though it's
yeah.
more efficient, it's faster, it'll be cheaper, it'll be more plentiful, anybody can do it. I'll still have something that I want to say through my own kind of basically struggle in creating music, right? Like creating music is a struggle. It can be a joy, but boy, you guys know it can be a lot of pain too. And through that pain, but overcoming the pain and getting to the end of it and hitting bounce on the final track is the kind of payoff. And even if my music isn't as good, as creative, as sonically, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Let's say the AI model beats me on everything. It's still not me, right? And so that's where I think that there's going to be this inherent need for humans to kind of create and connect with each other. So let's go ahead and jump into that right now, which was basically, do we think that people, the general audience, will care if if music is generated by a computer, by an AI algorithm, or created by human artists and composers? So, Bjørn, I'll let you start off this one. What is your general take on this? What do you see coming down the pipeline in the future? How do you think consumers and fans are going to respond to AI music in general?
Yeah, so I asked my wife this question because if she's driving or biking somewhere and I have a playlist going on in her car or in her headphones, listening to music, and a track pops out that she really likes, some kind of weekend thing or something, and she moves it in the top of her playlist, listens to it for a week or 3 or something like that, and then someone she knows, maybe me or someone else, tells her that, do you know that actually this track you're liking is completely computer generated? No human has made this track. As I asked her, are you still going to like the track? And she told me honestly, she's honest, so she told me honestly, probably yes, I'm going to like it, because if you like it, you like it, but she said that when she was going to know that this is made by no human, it would probably leave a little sour taste after that. So I'm sure that, or I'm positive that people will listen to AI music and they will like it, never knowing it was made from AI, because music is everywhere. I have 3 teenagers. They swipe up on TikTok and you have music there, and they don't have that concept of an artist. They listen to the music and they like it or they don't like it. If it's from, as I said, Weekend, or if it's from deadmau5 or whatever, I don't think they actually care about that, at least my kids. And I'm going to try to correct that, of course. So also the music can be in the form of background music of your favorite TV show or a movie, as you are working in, and in a shopping mall or a store. So I think people will say that, of course they care, but when it comes to it, I don't really think all people will.
I think you're absolutely right on that. Yeah, there's no reason to think that AI music won't have a place with the general consumer public, because AI algorithms will be able to more scientifically analyze what makes a hit song and recreate it, and have all the elements that have worked for previous hit songs. And so, yes, I think you're absolutely right. There's definitely going to be a segment of the general audience that's just going to be listening to AI music and, that's cool, I like it, whatever. But they're not big and they're not becoming fans of it. Like in terms of like, they're not going to go obviously see them live. They don't want to probably see an algorithm play it live. They're probably not going to buy any merchandise. I mean, maybe they'll have some AI merchandise. I don't know. So my point on this is that there'll definitely be a sort of surface level amount of music that's coming out that will, satisfy you just sonically, maybe even move you emotionally to a certain extent. But I have found, for at least the artists that I have really gotten into, there has been the reason why I've been listening to some of the same bands and same artists for decades now, wasn't because they had a catchy melody or because the sonic quality of their records. There was something emotionally, spiritually, socially that I had bonded with that artist through their music, right? So if they went through some horrible situation in their life, they kind of put it out in their music, and you feel like in a way you went along that ride with them, and you got to feel the pain they went through, the joys they had when they had they became a parent. And many of the rock bands I listened to, it's so funny growing up, a lot of the rock bands I listened to, obviously in the beginning they're angry and they're angsty and they're talking about how they hate everything, and then they're suddenly writing songs about how they fell in love and now they got children, and now they're making all these new songs and all these new topics and stuff. So you get to kind of like grow up with a lot of your artists, that kind of a thing. So I do feel the depth of connection we get through music will still endure with human to humans creating music for each other and consuming it with each other. Not across the board, not everybody, and there will be maybe some people that are just like, yeah, whatever, it's cool. I just like music. I'm not into the sort of the human to human connection. But to me, it feels there is going to always be a need to express ourselves individually, as I just expressed. Even if an AI model can do everything better than me, it's still not me. You know, one of those analogies I just was making, talking to my buddy yesterday. We have one of these, it's an electric piano at my house. And it has one of these functions where you can hit a button, it'll start playing a Mozart song, right? So it's like, just an automated, basically kind of an AI, right? It's just playing some amazing, beautiful, very, very complicated piece of music perfectly every time. It never makes a mistake. It's programmed to do that. And my little 1.5-year-old daughter sometimes says the piano, and she's a button presser. She's just hitting buttons. And suddenly she hits that one. It's like, we kind of joke around like, oh my gosh, Morgan, how'd you get so good at this so quickly, right? And of course, like, it's funny, but very quickly I go, turn it off. And then when she starts banging on it, that noise that she makes is actually the noise that I love, because that's her noise. That's her music, right? That's her doing something and her discovering, oh, if I hit this key, it makes that sound. If I hit that key, it's a lower sound. So there is this kind of perfection, and efficiency is not always what we want from each other. We kind of want the mistakes, right? We want the flaws. We want the authenticity. We want the real stuff between us. So that's at least my hope there. I don't know if you have any further thoughts on that, Bjørnar.
Yeah, I think you're right about that in terms of people wanting to listen to people's music. And I think you and I can agree with that. And a lot of other people watching this probably can agree with that as well. But, I think that will play into our other talking points in terms of, the entire if people care about if the music is produced by AI or not, actually. But for me, as I said in the other introduction here or earlier, is that when you produce music, for me, it's just a process and just finding that happy place and that happy accident. And I think that's more important for, at least for me, to keep enjoy doing what I do. Just sometimes you can just lose yourself in an instrument and just find something. And I mean, for you, it's probably different because you have certain types of tracks you need to make, and you have certain types of briefs you need to make music for. And it depends on who we are,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we can definitely get into that now in terms of where the future of maybe stock licensing, sync licensing are, our TV and film clients, cable companies, network companies. Are they going to really care that the music that they're licensing and using was made by a human? Or are they going to look more about the bottom line and go like, well, yeah, it's nice that it's human created, but boy, this subscription model, they're only going to charge us $1,000 a month, whatever it's going. It could even be $10,000 a month. It'll probably be cheaper than what they're paying now for humans, right? And they can basically generate and text in and prompt in anything they necessarily want. Definitely a concern I've had from the very beginning of this about a year ago on my channel, saying, hey, watch out, guys. Yeah. This is kind of something that could potentially come into our world place. So I'll let you lead us off with that side of things. Like, will corporations basically just take the bottom line argument and eradicate most humans from the equation when it comes to functional music, production music, stock music, sync music, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of people are wondering about this, and I think a lot of people have worked in corporate settings. I certainly do, and almost every corporation, they have their financial goals as their first priority, and it's to increase the bottom line, increase how much money they have in the account after all costs are paid. And a huge cost to these companies are human beings. They need a salary. They need to work only 8 to 9 hours a day. They need a weekend off. They need health care. They need vacations. They need sick days. They need to go to the toilet, lunch breaks, And an AI wouldn't do these things. And, if the AI isn't good enough or delivers good enough quality for, let's say, a sync library or stock library or what the corporation need, well, then perhaps they might have a few people on the clock or they can contact, but a lot less that they normally do. and you can use those people as consultants or something. And I'm just assuming here. I'm just trying to think as a corporation. I think it sounds reasonable. I know we all know how these corporations work, and I think they are definitely going to take advantage of it if it's an economical advantage. And I also seen, I'm sure you also have seen that it's already happening in Hollywood in certain areas as well. People are, losing their jobs, and AI is actually to blame for some of them.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a future that we probably know is coming sooner or later, or maybe it's already here. It's interesting because I've been diving into this world a little bit more and finding out how much of there's a lot of tech layoffs that's been happening since basically 2021. And of course, in the beginning, they were saying, well, it's the overhiring during COVID. COVID, everything was shut down, so tech exploded because everybody's on their devices much more. So there's a lot more, economic activity in mobile devices. But now they're kind of like, trimming up. And so the excuse for a lot of those layoffs in the beginning was, all right, we're just sort of downsizing from an overhiring during the COVID phase. And now we're in this next phase where they're saying, well, yeah, because of AI, we are downsizing even more. And I'm actually hearing some different points of view on that. Some people are saying that actually might just be an excuse because they want to lay off more people anyways, and AI is a nice convenient reason to say, well, we're going to be more productive. It's a way to kind of reassure investors that this isn't a matter of us struggling financially. It's a matter of us preparing for a much more productive future. It's kind of hard to see at this point, but I think we're kind of in the fog of war. But regardless of what's happening now, yes, like this is obviously going to be a concern that everybody has, which is, especially for us, we can just focus on, stock licensing, sync licensing. Are they really going to care about us? No, because the one disadvantage that we have in this side of the business, especially I'll speak mostly for sync, is if you're watching a reality show or a TV show or a commercial, how many people watching that care or even know or even notice, honestly, if there's music in the background? Most of the time, we don't consciously notice it. It's just there setting a kind of a tone. And sometimes it's so low in the mix, you can barely even hear it, but there's just kind of some noise back there keeping the energy moving forward. You can kind of feel it on a subconscious level. There's something happening there, but you almost can't even hear it. It's like laughable, literally how low some of the tracks are that I've gotten in my background instrumental placement. So yeah, absolutely. We are potentially one that could be, on the chopping block to be basically replaced by something that's much cheaper. My point of view of this has always been how easy is the user interface for both options. So right now there's already millions of production music library tracks that exist, and they've been catered and structured and marketed for the current industry, right? So they're kind of like, it's working. What we're doing right now, we're serving a marketplace. So that's already working. AI is coming in as a potential replacement for that. And the question will be, if I'm a music editor and my job is to select music, right? And I have two options. I have my, let's say, APM music library that I've got a blanket license with. I can take anything I want from their website and I can basically download it and use it. Or I've got this AI generator and I can prompt in anything I need and get it as well. Now, of course, the corporation is going to say, you're going to use the AI generator because that's cheaper. We want to save money. You're just going to use that. But a lot of times it will come down to the people who actually have to use the technology. Because I've had many jobs where I had CEOs and managers that said, all right, you're going to start editing videos, but you're going to use our online. This is way back in 2008, so long before now, where you can do probably pretty good online video editing, but this is the early prototypes of it. They wanted us to use this online video editor that the CEO had a connection with, and it sucked. It just was horrible. And they're like, but we got to deal with them. You guys got to edit your stuff. And we were just like, we're not using this. Like, we're just not, we can't, if you want us to make as much content as you think we're going to make, we can't do it with this. It has bugs and errors and problems. So anyways, if an AI music generator does not hit the mark, like whatever you prompt in does not give you really is what you were looking for, and it's not easily manipulated, and you can't adjust it, and it takes a lot longer, and it's just harder and more cumbersome, as opposed to the existing millions of tracks sitting right there alongside with new AI tools that will allow you to find it quicker. So we have to realize that this AI technology doesn't just go into the generative place, it actually goes into the human library as well, right? So to help editors and supervisors find exactly what they want, they'll be able to prompt in something and find it. They'll be able to say something. They'll be able to hum a tune. They'll be able to say, give me something like this artist, and it'll be able to interpret that, make it a meaningful interpretation, and go find something. So I think it'll come down to literally like these two interfaces right in front of you. Which one will have the least friction, I think, will usually win out. And it'll be a case-by-case scenario. So I don't know if you have any feedback on that.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And as we have also been talking about, AI can also be a good tool for sorting out metadata and sorting out already existing tracks. For example, perhaps you can, okay, I want a track sounding like this, and you can upload that track to the website, and it will listen to it and present you with, okay, here are the options in our catalog. That's not this track, but it kind of is the same vibe, same genre, same same kind of vibe. That's one type of tool I think that's going to be useful. But I think it's correct what you're saying, the path of least resistance. I think that if they are happy with the good enoughness of the track, I think a prompt is going to be much easier than going to or browsing through tracks, and it will actually go down. I think it will go down to the people designing if they really care about that or not, actually. So, but as I've seen now I've seen a lot of videos talking about Suno and these services. It's probably going to have another name in a year. And I've listened to the tracks there, and it's kind of, it sounds really good, but it's kind of mono, you don't have this space. So yeah, and I thought about this also in terms of if you for photographers have had this issue for a long time, for a lot longer time than we have. And when you generate these images, they almost look too perfect. Have you seen that?
Yes, and there's definitely like a look. When you see a picture, you can go, AI, right off the bat. You can see it, yep.
Yeah, you can see it right away that, okay, this image is AI created. It looks awesome. It's insane how good quality it is. And are we going to get to a point where the quality is actually, this may sound strange, but it's too good that you can just feel,
I'll tell you exactly.
This is AI.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but autotune.
No problem.
Autotune is the exact analogy there. Yes, you could crank up autotune all the way up so your pitch is perfect. And how do people like generally voices that are way too autotuned? Generally, I'm not saying across the board. Some people are okay with it. T-Pain made a lot of money with it. But you hear some music now, especially rock bands that are doing it, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? I don't want perfect vocals. I want nasty vocals. I want scratchy vocals. I want imperfection, right? So just kind of going back to that same thing of like, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. When something is too perfect, too polished, we go, ooh, don't think I want anything, especially in art. I think it's especially in art. Maybe in other use factors, we could be, for more commercial senses, maybe it's a little bit better. But when it comes down to music, music is not about perfection. Music is about, I feel, you could have a million different, theses as to what music really is for. For me, what it really does for me is it's a socially acceptable way to put uncomfortable feelings and share them with each other. Like, that's what it feels like. It's this capsule. If I'm feeling something really, really challenging, it's really scary to just say that to another human being, because it's like, boy, I don't want to start blubbering in front of them or something like that. But if I can sing it and I can put it into a catchy song and I can put some amazing music around it and I can really just like pour my heart out into it, you might go like, man, Jesse, I know exactly where you were coming from when you wrote that song, and I love it. It makes me feel more valid and less crazy about what I'm going, or whatever it is, right? So it's like, that's not perfection. That's messy. Emotions are very messy. And so I think that's one thing. I think you're absolutely right. That perfection is not really what we want out of art. We actually want the imperfections. We want the flaws. We want the messiness of it.
Yeah. And I think that when we look at these images and I think you can look at generative photos and see where music is going to be in a year or so, and also video at some point.
Right. But and it also challenges us too. I think it's a great, for me, this is what I'm learning, is because I'm definitely a perfectionist. I think my music needs to be perfect before I'm done with it. And now I'm really starting to value the flaws. I'm starting to really go like, no, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be me. It needs to really, as long as it's really coming from me, I'm winning. It doesn't need to be the perfect track. It needs to be a track that's authentic to what I wanted to say. So I think that's really been a cool reminder. I've been humbled in a really major way from AI to say it's not about perfection. It's really about authenticity, about really just being transparent on what I'm feeling and what I want to really actually say, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that's kind of the thing you should focus on if you're depressed, if you don't like this kind of AI. I think that focusing on yourself and your identity and your happy accident place and imperfections, I think that's what you need to do to kind of be on top of this. And yeah.
Awesome. So let's move on to copyright. You had some concerns, some questions, and some points of views on that. So, if your music has been trained by an AI model, which I believe yours has, right, with some of the stock sites that you've worked with, how I'll just let you lead off that conversation in terms of what's our future like. What does copyright look like? What's your basically your overall view on that?
Yeah. First of all, I know, we ain't farmers. We don't have a union. We can't go to someone and say that we don't want this. In terms of copyright, I haven't done much research in this particular field, but I think you should have some kind of documentation showing exactly what type of data this generative AI have used to train the model they are using to generate new tracks. And I think it has to be 100% open and transparent, so you know. And the thing is, if you ask one of these companies, they don't say where they got the data from. Some of them, of course, do, but not all of them. And especially that I haven't seen the video, but the interview with that CEO who was asked, where do you get the data from? And she couldn't answer the question. I think that's I don't know what to say about it. It's not good. And in terms of legal, I know that you have researched this more than I have, and there are things in the works in terms of legal or copyright issues. A few artists have voiced their concerns, but this is technology, and I don't know if the people who make the laws really understand what this is about. And I'm sure people have seen Congress talking to Mark on Facebook. It's not given that everyone knows what generative AI is, or if they want to kind of take up the fight. So
Correct. Yeah,
I think this is kind of a fog.
it's a
foggy
great
right
point.
now.
Yeah, and all valid concerns. And across the board, we are in the Wild West of this. It's a new technology. The laws that we created, obviously, we're not created in a time where we even probably could conceive of these algorithms being able to do this. So it might be times ahead of us where laws are going to get changed, updated. I also am making a case. By the time this interview comes out, you guys probably have already seen a video I put out about why I feel the AI generative companies that are scraping the internet, basically probably scraping Spotify, Apple Music, literally any piece of music they can get their hands on, probably also stock sites illegally, probably production music library websites as well. I can't obviously know this, but this is just my suspicion. They are betting that they're going to be able to get away with a fair use defense in the copyright law. The fair use doctrine says that I can use copyrighted data, music, to inspire myself to make new music. And you and I do this, Bjørnar. That's basically our whole bread and butter. As we listen to other music, we go, this is cool. I want to make something like that. And our whole lives, we've been listening to artists and being inspired. So, of course, this is the big defense of AI training that I even hear from my own subscribers and community members. Like, well, there's nothing we can do. They're doing exactly what human beings do. The difference for me is the output capability, right? So, while I can train and learn and get inspired by copyrighted music and then create my own version of it and not step on their toes and not rip them off, I can maybe create one track a day, maybe two if I'm really, really ambitious. But an AI algorithm can create infinite numbers of tracks, sound-alike tracks for that one that it trained off of, because it can have unlimited users virtually, prompting in all day long across the world, creating this new library of music that basically could flood the marketplace, especially production music, and seriously dilute the value of the human music that it was trained on. So to me, it's not an apples to apples comparison on AIs and human beings. There's a very big difference in terms of what we can compute and what we can actually output on the other end of it. So I've been making a case that I don't even think we need to really necessarily change the laws. I think the current fair use laws actually could be applied. Now, I'm only talking about music and generative models that are creating music. When it comes to ChatGPT with text, or Midjourney or DALL-E with videos, that's another battle. That's another area. I've only got so many hours in the day, so I can only really speak to, and I'm really just trying to focus on our fight here and what we can kind of do. And I would say this across the board. I don't know the future. We might not win this battle. Like, this might be one of these things where the courts won't do anything. New laws aren't changed. There aren't new regulations that get introduced. There is a recent bill that's now being debated in terms of, it's been introduced, that would require generative AI companies, as you just suggested, to disclose their training data to the Library of Congress 30 days, I don't know, within launching or whatever. But it also would apply to retroactive, already active models that are on the market. So they would have to do it as well. Yeah. Whether or not that gets passed, all of this is, I don't know. My point of view right now is, let's go out swinging, right? Like, if this is going to be our last dance, if this is really like our fight to hold on to our rights as music creators, why wouldn't we throw everything we possibly can at this fight? What I don't understand, I mean, I can empathize with, but I just can't allow myself to get to it, is the sentiment of, they're big tech. They've already bought and paid for everybody. They're going to get away with this. It's already done. The training's already there. It's, resistance is futile in a way. And I think I don't know how you feel about that. I can't let my mind go to that place. We're not there yet. To me, it's like the battle's just getting started, and some people are already waving the white flag. Why even fight? And I think, like, we might lose. I'm not saying we're going to, but this is our music, right? And think about all the crap that our ancestors had to go through in life, right? We can't put up a little bit of a fight right now to try, like, at least try. So I don't know. That's my little rant. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I could rant on as well, but I'm a visitor here, so I wouldn't do that. But yeah, man, I've been thinking about this as well. I think that I think a lot of people is too easy to take that white flag up and kind of say defeat that. Yeah, I give up, and. No, I think that we should be vocal. I think we should say that we don't like it, of course, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. And if you have to go down, you have to go down with a fight. I agree with that, and I think that we should dictate what we want to do, because think about some people have used they have sacrificed their time with their loved ones, they sacrificed time with their children, they've been in the studio producing music, they've used years and years of their youth, they've used years of their time, you have used decades, 10, 20 years, and okay, now you're at the point where you're good at music production. I think there are thousands of people like this, and now you just have a technology that takes that content, takes that 10 years, take that 20 years, 25 years, just chews on it, spits out something else. So you're just taking 20 years of someone's life and just making something new. For me, that's stealing, and yeah, I think that people are, it's too easy for people to just, yeah, I gave up. Big tech companies, I can kind of understand it at some point, but yeah, I agree with this. We should at least exhaust our options and see what we can do to navigate this in the best way for the artists,
Absolutely, because these tech companies, you better believe they're not going to come out to us with an offer to say, we'd love to have you guys be revenue share partners with us. That's not how business works. People get away with as much as they can without giving anything up, right? And so they will do anything they can to just steamroll and keep moving forward and marching forward. And it requires people to throw up their hands, and either it's lawsuits or it's, videos like this where we're just kind of speaking up about it. Everybody can do a little bit, not that like any one of us can make a huge difference, but we all have little talents. We have little things we can do. We have a little sphere of influence in our lives. And I think the narrative, this is one thing I learned from Jen, Audio Socket CEO. I think I'd sent you her interview on my channel before
Yeah,
we
I saw
talked here.
that. Really good.
She's taken it upon herself to start this whole series of AI videos where she's talking to attorneys and, rights holders and all this kind of stuff. And one thing that she got at the very beginning, I didn't understand, and now I'm finally starting to understand it. She said, unlike when Napster happened, what I want to do this time with AI, with the new revolution, is I want to have a voice, or at least have rights holders be a voice in the conversation, helping to steer the narrative. And I thought, well, who cares about a narrative? Like, it's laws. Laws are laws or whatever. But laws get passed because of stories. We tell ourselves stories about what kind of a society we want to live in, right? What we value, what's important to us, what do we want to protect. These are just stories we're telling ourselves. There's nothing objectively true about any of this stuff. This is just all human values. The copyright system is not perfect, but it does a pretty good, decent job of ensuring people that are creative can try to eke out a living for themselves, right? And hold on to some exclusive protection. So we did, as a society, tell ourselves a story. This is valuable to us. We want to protect it. We're going to create laws and restrictions around it. And if AI generative models need to have new laws enacted to restrict them or to protect human beings against them, so be it. But that doesn't happen unless a narrative forms, like a new story forms about what we're doing with this technology and what's really important to us. And so now it really is important, even if we're just helping to tell the story, right? As just speaking out like this is what we're doing, is we're crafting our little tiny corners of the narrative on the internet, right? And making our little dents that we possibly can. So really important stuff for us to speak out. So I think you and I are on the same page with that. So one of the last points you had brought up here was, is it possible for us to know if something is made by AI? Because that we were just talking about with the music example, right? You're on Spotify and you're just listening to music. Is this something that we're going to want across the board in terms of like a regulation where if Spotify is recommending you an AI song, does it have to have a logo, a marker on it? Does it have to say it in the music somewhere? Does there have to be some sort of a like warning you're about to listen to, or if it's, because I know YouTube now is, I don't know if you saw this, YouTube now is saying if you're uploading anything with generative, I think it's, audio, video, visuals, you have to now indicate it as such, that there's something in this video that's not real, that it was actually generated by AI. So I put my money on a certain position on this, but I want to first, pick your brain on what do you think about this? What are your concerns about that?
Yeah, I see that on some stock music libraries, if you upload images and music there, you have to have a checkbox telling if you have used some kind of AI generated content in making the product you are uploading. So it's already there actually on a lot of places that they want to know if it's AI or not. And I don't know if you go to Spotify and you just listen to some music and you like it, and or you're going to like it less if if you have kind of an AI badge under it. I don't know. I have my predictions on what's going to happen with Spotify, but that's like 5 years in the future, where I think that Spotify is actually going to be able to auto-generate some tracks you like on the fly. So let's say if you have a playlist with a lot of music, I think that Spotify will then throw in an AI-generated track in there. And Spotify, have a lot of data. They know that people like the track. They know if they add it to their playlist. They have a lot of these points if someone likes a track or not. Let's say that Spotify uses data to say that, okay, this track, people didn't quite like that track. So, okay, put it out of the playlist, generate it, but just make some changes, put it in the playlist again, throw it out to 1,000 people. Do they like it more or less, And you just do this 1,000 times. That's what the AI does. And I think eventually we are going to see content made by AI, but I'm not sure if we're going to kind of have a badge under there telling it's AI. Not sure. It's a good question. I would at least like to know if it's AI or not.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if they'll have, knowing. I don't know. I would assume if they did, proceed with that, which I could see them definitely doing. Probably would be, I would think, a thing they just start and it automatically starts happening. And if you want to be notified if something is AI generated, you would probably have to go into your settings and click, hey, put the badge on. Let me know if I'm listening to something that's not created by human beings, that hasn't been authenticated by a real artist.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it'll be a small subset of people like you, people who are really music artists and musicians themselves who probably have that value. They'll want to, but as you said, maybe the vast majority of users are just like, I just like good music. If you got good music in your app, I'll keep using it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's a good question in terms of like, so let's say one of these AI generated tracks you just fall in love with. You're like, oh man, this, because obviously it's going to be learning, getting better and better and better. If people do fall in love with it, right? They're just like, this is the best thing I've ever heard. I'm just such a fan. Where does that go? Because if you're like, I want to hear more of this artist, I guess there maybe will be a button that says generate an album, right? Like this,
Yeah.
or give me, like, if this were an artist, give me the full thing or whatever. Will people want to dive further into that, knowing that there's no person there, there was no real, pain that inspired that music. There was no real, I mean, there was, but it's so now lost in the training data that you have no direct connection to it. I have always found that when I fall in love with a new song and it's like, I don't know who this is, it's just crazy, cool new artist. If it's like 2 or 3 songs I've heard them on, and I use a YouTube Music app, one of the first things I do is I go on YouTube and I type in their band name and interview, or artist name and interview, because I'm always curious. I'm like, who is this person? What do they look like? That's always the first question. What do they look like? Because I can hear their voice. I'm like, I wonder what this person sounds like. There's always that question. If it's not right on their artwork, I don't really know, like a rock band or something like that. I want to know, are they from the US? What's their backstory? Are they older guys, younger guys? I don't know. I get this kind of curiosity socially to be like, who are these human beings making this beautiful sound, over here? So some people, to become like a super fan of something like that, I can imagine people are going to want to dive deeper and really dig deeper. And will this feeling of emptiness maybe creep into some users where they're like, I fell in love with this artist and I found it was all AI. Like, I didn't like that feeling. That was like a really negative experience I had, to fall in love with something that was not real on the other end of it. I don't want to do that again. Will it create like a backlash, a sentiment of people going like, there's something about this, like we were talking about before, it's homogenized, it kind of sounds the same. Sure, it's pleasing to the ear, but the richness, right? It's like going to be junk food. It satisfies you very quickly, but the depth of the richness of the music isn't there. The richness of the social meaning is not there. And will Spotify and platforms that do this suffer, and people start to gravitate more towards, I can almost guarantee you there will be a Spotify competitor in the near future that will say, we absolutely don't allow any AI music. And if there is something that is AI generated, we will take it down, or we will allow everything on our platform, but anything AI generated will absolutely be front and center labeled as such, because we don't want any bait and switching going on. So it's kind of the marketplace will dictate all this stuff. I have no idea, but any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. It's up to the marketplace, and it's up to the end user and how they react to the content they are being presented with, and how the companies then use the reaction data to kind of know what people like or dislike, and and I agree with that thing that when you find a new artist, I want to know, where he live. Is he from Norway, or, he's probably some German guy, because I like mostly electronic music, But yeah, I think that people that are over our age is going to care about this, but I don't really think that younger people is going to. And again, it's all about the technology. It's all about how good the music is going to be. I think it will boil down to that, because if it is good enough, if you get that kind of grayness away, and if you can get it really exciting, it just feels like a human being. I think that that's kind of the end game. And when you see how much Nvidia sells, how many GPUs they sells, or these chips, they're just shoving them out. They can't produce enough. And you know what these are being used for? They are being used for this, or AI. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's it's interesting times. We'll see what our kids. We have to raise our kids right. I think the entire world. I mean, AI can do so much good for the world. I felt that this was a little doom and gloom, but it's not only that. If you use AI correctly, I mean, agriculture, human relations, mean, diplomacy, maybe AI can help us be nicer to each other. Countries, I don't know, help find solutions to problems that we humans haven't thought about. AI can be used to probably a lot of good things if we just let it be used for it. So yeah, I think that's my thoughts about it. What do you
Absolutely.
think?
And yeah, and I think we're both positive, net positive on AI. And I've
Yeah,
always said, AI is the rocket ship, and I want to see this rocket ship take us as far as it can take us. However, a rocket ship to get off the ground even an inch needs good quality fuel, and our data is that fuel that's getting it off the ground. So I'm saying, don't go to Mars without us, right? Don't just take off on your magical rocket ship after sucking up our data without asking and without paying us. Take us with you, and since you didn't invite us, we're going to invite ourselves because we know that you
exactly.
can't get this rocket ship off the ground without our data. So come on, let's like be partners here in a way. So that's kind of what this really comes down to. And this is kind of going to be an awkward, weird way to end the interview, but you're just talking about the sort of diplomacy and creating a little bit more empathy and communication around the world. I don't know if you saw, there's a video out there of Hitler actually giving his speech, and they've used AI to translate his voice into English, and they've obviously translated his language. So it's basically as if you were sitting there in Germany, and if Hitler were talking, you can now understand him. Because before, every video you ever saw of Hitler was him just, just like barking
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
And you're like, and people said he was such a great speaker. And I'm like, that's a great speaker? Like, because to an English speaking person, it sounds like noise. It sounds like this really harsh language.
yeah.
And I'm actually German. I'm half German. And I don't speak German though. But you hear it and you go like, how did anybody get suckered by this guy? How did anybody get mesmerized by that? Like, that just sounds not at all, compelling or convincing or persuasive. Go watch that video. Have you seen this one?
No, I'm going
Okay.
to check it
It's a
out.
very quick video. It's like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It's just a little snippet. I don't know if I should spoil it or not, but I'll just tell you my impression after listening to a 20-second snippet of Hitler speaking in English in his basically tone of voice. Obviously, AI is probably manipulating it a bit, but it definitely
Yeah,
kind of feels like that's what his voice would sound like if it were in English. It is extremely compelling, like extremely, because he's almost on the verge of crying as he's like shouting and yelling. He's basically like almost like
yeah,
pouring his heart out to his people, right? That's what it feels like. And immediately in terms of like diplomacy and empathy, I now feel what the German people probably were feeling in that moment, of going like, we're desperate, we're in a dark time, and here's somebody who's got all the answers, and he cares about us because listen to how he's talking, listen to what he's really pouring out there. And it's not so much obviously to excuse anything that happened, but it's just more of a way to say, I empathetically understand now how that could happen, right? I can
yeah.
understand how a
Mm.
whole nation of people can be pulled into this dark web from somebody who's that charismatic. And I think it's obviously a lesson learned for all of us to be aware of this kind of thing. So that to me is like, whoa, like literally for like a couple of days, I was like unsettled. So I was like, I get
Yeah,
it now
scary.
how that happened. So, anyways, check it out. I don't know if I'll link it below, but you just go online, you type in probably AI Hitler. Hopefully, you don't get in trouble. You probably might find his speech, a little quick thing, and I'm just curious how you guys would feel when you guys hear that thing, because it was just really an eye opener. And this is obviously a small taste of what I think AI language and audio conversion can do for us for translating barriers, or getting us across barriers, communicating with people across the world, and also culturally understanding what different words mean and different phrases and that kind of thing. So, and especially
Yeah,
when you put that technology in us real time, imagine what we can do, collaborations wise across the world. I think it opens up an amazing world. But you had some more thoughts?
yeah. No, no, not much, but the thing that you can hear someone's words and you can hear someone's feelings behind the words. I think that's the
That's it.
takeaway there. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, and the internet right now in its current way with just text and
yeah. It's
emojis.
yeah,
Memes are getting better. Memes sometimes help better, but yeah,
yeah,
we're not quite there. It's like you really got to hear them exactly. The tone of voice, the nonverbal communications sometimes are really what's missing, and so this will hopefully help us bridge that gap in many ways. So Bjørnar, thank
yeah.
you so much, man. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for your insights. Hopefully, those of you guys that made it all the way to the end of this see that this is obviously, I think, light at the end of the tunnel. We are going through a birth now, and births are in changing times are messy and chaotic, and they feel really strange. I'm still net positive positive on our future and where we're going to go, but we do have to kind of hang together and sort of support each other during this really trying time. So any other comments, concerns you guys got, any other points of feedback, we'd love to hear them. Go ahead and post it below. Obviously, check out Bjørnar's YouTube channel. I'll link to that video that he made last week, which I think really kind of exemplified even better, probably than our conversation here about what this is really all about. So definitely subscribe to his channel, check out his videos. He's got some really, really cool stuff, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Goodbye.